Today is Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, and this video is called Living in a Post-Truther World. And it's something that I think about a lot these days. It just feels like we're in a new era, a post-truther era, and just what I mean by that is, well, starting I guess around 2017, it really feels like that was just a big time period. YouTube was full of truther channels, and it felt like information was really coming out at a pretty quick speed, and things felt new. Just waking up has a strange feeling to it. You wake up and you have that moment of, oh man, this is where we live. And I guess just now it feels like we're past that. And really, I mean, if you probably know as well as I do that a lot of the big truther channels that were out have just gone and disappeared and nobody hears of them anymore. And the ones that are still around, it seems like they're kind of just droning on and on about the same topic that they ever were, and really not much evolution of thought these days. And so it just feels like we're past that. And I guess there's also this aspect, something I thought about, it's like being a freshman versus being a senior. Freshmen, they're all nervous about stuff, everything's new and exciting, and every day feels like something crazy could happen. And then by the time you're a senior, just you're a lot more used to everything. It takes a lot to shock you, and it, I guess you're more jaded by that point, and it just nothing feels weird anymore. You're just used to the routine of it, I guess. So that's just feels like used to the routine of believing all sorts of things that society doesn't believe, and standing up for what you believe in no matter what people come and mock you with. It just doesn't faze me anymore. I guess that's what it is. I feel like I'm starting to go back into society, but just separate myself now. Like I'm more able to just live a normal life and feel more normal, not like waking up feeling like, oh, I'm in bizarro world still. It just doesn't feel like that anymore. And I guess there's just this separation. Oh yeah, I have a bunch of wacky ideas that a lot of people don't agree with. It just doesn't feel extreme to me anymore. I'm more at the point of everybody should be able to have their own thoughts and opinions about anything. And so that's just how I feel about myself. And it just doesn't feel so strange or extreme to me anymore that I have opinions and I have theories and ideas that a lot of people freak out over. I just don't freak out over it anymore. Just become very normalized at this point. And yeah, that's a big thing. So one aspect of being post-truther, I guess, is I've been disconnecting a lot from the internet. I don't really watch truther channels. This is a concept that I know I've briefly mentioned a few times, but I think it's really important. And the idea of umbrellas versus rabbit holes. And maybe you've heard the term like umbrella corp. How, so just to give you an idea of this rabbit hole versus umbrella corp, you know how some people there might be some guy who's really into CIA and spends so much time investigating everything about the CIA. Everything in this person's mind is to blame about the CIA. And that would be more of like a CIA rabbit hole, going in and trying to investigate everything about the CIA, all the little conspiracies about the CIA. That's very like rabbit hole minded. Whereas umbrella is when some people get stuck in those little things. In that person's mind, everything is because of the CIA. Okay. Whereas a rabbit hole idea, or whereas an umbrella idea is just all the world governments, the NWO is just already here. I think of that as just a very umbrella concept because all sorts of other smaller topics fit underneath that. All of the government institutions are in on it. It's not just the CIA or the IRS or whatever. All of these are under the umbrella of the New World Order, which is just already here. And I have a short list of these things. So, and the point of this, where I think this applies to the post-truther, it's just any channels that are still around, or any people that kind of say that they're a truther or whatever, it seems like most of them are just chasing a rabbit hole instead of teaching big truths. And so I think that there's just a lot of room out there still. I'm not saying that nobody should go try to be a truther. I just think that we don't need truthers anymore. Truthers, it's like podiums. There's no podiums. We're all on the same level, and anybody can go talk about truth just as good as anybody else out there. That's my opinion. I don't think we need truthers. I think anybody can start making videos today and do just as good of a job as anybody else out there. And the reason being, I think most people out there are stuck in this more of rabbit hole mindset, as opposed to people who truly get it, truly get that it's all fake, or truly get the four skeleton, or the four kinds of people thing. So this is the one example. Yeah, I go out there and I see people talking about EGI, elite gender inversion. And of course, that's a gatekeeper topic, because it's not just the elite. You can just walk around town and see all sorts of inverted people. So there's that chasing the rabbit hole of every day, and I used to be a part of this, right? Every day waking up, oh, is that celebrity inverted? Is that celebrity inverted? You could waste your whole lifetime doing that. If you just wake up every day and you're like, what about that one? There goes your whole life going through the whole list of them, instead of just coming to the knowledge of the whole. It's all of them. That's a more umbrella. All of them are. Start from there, and then you'll wake up to all sorts of other truths. So some more examples. NASA, Sun Simulator, Nibiru, Extra Dimensions, instead of just realizing outer space is fake and gay. Mud Flood, Tartaria, Star Forts, everything is a fossilized giant. Those are just really popular type rabbit hole type things. And I don't think that it's bad to research this kind of thing. I just think that spending your whole time consuming the truth or media that's out there right now, and I use that term really loosely, truther, because I believe that Jesus Christ is the truth, and that's the only truth that really matters in my opinion. So when I use the word truther and I'm talking about YouTube people, I use it very lightly, because I don't support what these people do, because they're sending people off on rabbit holes instead of just saying it's all fake, everything's fake, and the Bible's true. Importantly, that's the thing that makes me a little bit upset, is when there's these people out there that are missing the bigger picture that points to biblical truth. So I get annoyed when I see mud flood, mud flood, mud flood, instead of people coming out and saying it's Noah's flood. When Noah's flood happened, there were enormous masonry buildings around. They didn't crumble in Noah's flood, they just sank into the ground a little bit, and then free masonry. That should just be common knowledge by now, the whole free masonry thing. But I don't know. You'd have to tell me. Do you hear mud flood people explain the simplicity of the term free masonry? Why it's called free masonry? Because they got all the masonry for free. Continuing on, I still hear so much stuff about HAARP, Age of Aquarius type stuff. We're really in an ice age. People love to talk about grand solar minimum, etc., etc., etc. However, I hardly ever hear people mention, oh, it's Isaiah end times prophecy. The sun is brighter, the moon is brighter. I hate the global warming denial. There's a really strong global warming denial in the, again, air quotes, truther community. And I have problems with the word global, of course, but the sun is hotter. That's the thing. You get these people that, oh, Sun Simulator, it's really an ice age. These people are doing a disservice. That's not the truth. Clearly the sun is hotter than it used to be. So just, I have problems with a lot of alleged truther material. And just the last example of rabbit hole versus umbrella type thinking. JFK assassination. I should have put here just chasing the news. There's a lot of people that every day they're turning on the TV to see what news story that they can bust. But when you know that it's all fake, what's the point? There's just no point in investing your time into that. And so yeah, the bigger umbrella is everything on the TV is fake and gay. And I just wanted to give one example of why this more open-minded and less narrow-minded thinking when it comes to this sort of conspiracy truther type topic, it can lead you to more truths the more broad you make your thinking. Like everything on the TV is fake. That's just something that you should come to accept. And then with that you can realize, well, that means that Nat Geo is fake. How much that's out of Nat Geo is real. So that's just something to think about if you're if that's a topic you're interested in. So I'm going to end with this. I want to talk about some biblical stuff. This is a huge topic. Again, this kind of goes into people get lost down these rabbit holes trying to explain the time thing instead of just understanding that the Bible's true and that this is part of biblical prophecy. I still hardly ever see people talk about Jesus and how Jesus told us that the days are going to be shortened. I see more people point out that the Quran talks about it. Somebody recently pointed this out in Amos, so I'll show this. Amos chapter 8, this isn't the verse, but it's kind of setting the stage. Verse 9. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord God, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day. So this is end times prophecy in other parts of the Bible. So this is a good part, and this connects to something else I want to share. Chapter 8, starting at verse 11, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord God, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. In that day shall the fair virgins and young man faint for thirst. So I think that this is very applicable to today. To today. There really isn't famine or thirst on the earth today. Not, at least not the way that the TV wants you to think. And probably not in times past. Famines and things like that probably used to wipe out huge populations. In the Bible, they talk about war of attritions. They would camp around the cities and just starve them out. And just today, I don't think it happens on that kind of scale, but there is a thirst and a hunger for just righteousness and truth. The whole world is under great deception, and the things that we thirst for are spiritual. Back in the days, back in biblical times, it's like the spirit level was cranked up to 11 compared to today. There were miracles being manifested left and right. God was actually there. Not that, okay, God, of course, is everywhere, but God showed himself with miracles, and it's just not like that anymore. People used to actually perform magic. Sorcery used to be a thing, and today it's like a lot of that's gone. So it's just something I connect with. Now, here's the verse that some people have pointed out that this is pointing to time moving more quickly. Now, when I read this, I don't necessarily read it as time moving more quickly. I guess it could be. It just seems more like the seasons get kind of out of whack, which is certainly true. And that's I think, a big part of just my opinion about the whole climate change and all that. I think Isaiah prophecy is coming true. I think days are moving more quickly. So I think that the NWO spends an enormous amount of effort. I think that they have like very advanced weather AI that calculates what they should do to try to keep the weather from going just completely haywire. I think that all the chemtrails and stuff, it's like they're trying to lessen the effect of Isaiah end times prophecy. And I think, of course, sometimes they're just covering the sky because maybe there's strange things happening in the sky and they want to cover it. Anyways, I'm going to read this. Amos chapter 9. Amos chapter 9, verse 13. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed. And the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. So end times sign is the hills melting. And I don't know what the sweet wine is talking about, but the beginning talks about time getting all screwed up. So I agree with that. I think the most obvious is when Jesus says that the days will be shortened. Days literally are shorter than they used to be. So I don't see why, whenever anybody talks about time moving more quickly, there should be somebody coming out and saying, yeah, Jesus told us that time would move more quickly in end times. Okay, so I'm going to end with just reading some John chapter 6, because this is just something that I've been thinking about for the last couple days. And it's kind of connected to this idea of in Amos, where there's a famine, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water. So just keep that in mind. And something that I also keep in mind is the part of the Lord's Prayer where it says, give us this day our daily bread. There's more than one layer to that idea of bread. Sure, sustain us with bread, but it also means spiritual sustenance. And just another thing that I've been thinking about, and how it connects to this post-truther idea, the idea of being just a passive consumer. When I think of what it was being a part of the truther movement, it was very much, there were like truthers and then consumers of that. And I think that just needs to go away completely. Everybody should be creating work. I think that everybody should be producing their own truth or work. There should just be followers of Christ who love talking about the truth and support the idea of everybody should be able to have their own thoughts and should be able to share them. And freedom of thought is strangely something that doesn't really exist. Just when you see how angry people get when all you're doing is sharing your thoughts. Okay, so I got a little sidetracked, but the point is, there's too much consuming going on. And just think of that connection of consuming media and like consuming food. And you are what you eat. Not necessarily eating sustenance, but consuming. Okay. John chapter 6, starting at verse 26, and we're going to read quite a few verses. Jesus answered them and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me, not because ye saw the miracles, but because ye did eat of the loaves and were filled. So this was after Jesus fed, I think, over 5,000 people with the few fish and bread that they had. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him hath God the Father sealed. Then said they unto him, What shall we do that we might work the works of God? Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that ye believe on him who he hath sent. So we have to believe on Jesus. We have to believe that Jesus is the Messiah. They said therefore unto him, What sign showest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What dost thou work? Our fathers did eat manna in the desert. As it is written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven, and giveth life unto the world. So Jesus is the bread of God. And so I just think about that when I say the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. Sure, there is that idea of needing sustenance for life, but we need the spiritual sustenance, and Jesus is the only thing that will actually be giving us everlasting life. And having actual food doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And really, just having faith in God, you'll be fed. You'll be fed, you'll be nourished if you have faith in Jesus. I think it kind of can go back to the idea of these days we really aren't running into all sorts of famines, and people really aren't dying of starvation all over like the TV might have you believe. A lot of times you see morbidly obese homeless people, just for example, and the things that we need nourishing really isn't food today. Can even go in with the time thing, the whole we don't even need to eat 3 meals a day anymore. We really can eat less today. But what we're really lacking today is that spiritual nourishment. And Jesus is what's going to give us that spiritual nourishment. Then said they unto him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. But I said unto you, that ye also have seen me, and believe not. All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. For I came down from heaven, not to do mine own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will, which hath sent me, that of all which he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. So the last day is going to be crazy, and a bunch of people, I wonder how that's going to work when the people are resurrected, and I wonder how they'll play that off. I have no idea. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. The Jews then murmured at him, because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. And they said, Is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he saith, I came down from heaven? Jesus therefore answered and said unto them, Murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of God. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. Not that any man hath seen the Father, save he which is of God. He hath seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life. I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness, and are dead. This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof, and not die. So just, whenever I'm reading this, I just imagine in context just how seething just a lot of things that Jesus said is really downplaying things that, maybe not downplaying, Jesus just really asserted his being above things that the Jewish people at the time revered. Jesus is basically putting his place above the manna, and to me, I can just imagine just how enraged all the Jews at the time were hearing him say these things. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. So my guess there, talking about the blood sacrifice, that Jesus actually gave his flesh for us. The Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, How can this man give us his flesh to eat? Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man, and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. Whoso eateth my flesh, and drinketh my blood, hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. Okay, so this is just one of my favorite parts of the Gospels, and something that I still can continue to meditate on and try to figure out exactly the meaning. But at least for the context of this video, I think what's really important is that it's hard speech, and that the implications of it are hard, and to admit that you believe it is hard and might cause ridicule. But that's okay, because believing in Jesus and believing in Jesus' words above everything is all that matters. And so let me just continue and explain what I mean by that and how it connects to this whole idea. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. As the living Father hath sent me, and I live by the Father, so he that eateth me, even he shall live by me. This is that bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna, and are dead. He that eateth of this bread shall live forever. These things said he in the synagogue, as he taught in Capernaum. Okay, so this is where people have reactions, because he was just saying that people are going to have to eat his flesh and drink his blood. So they're interpreting this, I suppose, just very literally. Many therefore his disciples, when they had heard this, said, This is a hard saying, who can hear it? When Jesus knew in himself that his disciples murmured at it, he said unto them, Doth this offend you? What, and if ye shall see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before? It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit, they are life. Okay, so the words that he's talking about, his flesh being bread and blood being drink, it's spiritual nourishment, and that's just my interpretation of it. And I guess what's important here is the reactions, how people react to standing with something that's not popular. But there are some of you that believe not, because that's the thing. I believe it. I believe that Jesus will be able to explain what all of these things mean and how they're all 100% true. And I'm okay with standing by that, even if people think that I'm like a cannibal or something. It just doesn't matter to me, because I'll stand by Jesus, and it really doesn't matter what other people think. I believe that everybody can have their own opinions and decide what they think is true, and I believe Jesus Christ is the truth. I believe in the Bible, and I have all sorts of other opinions that people aren't okay with, but just it doesn't matter to me anymore. I think everybody should be able to have their own things that they think are true, and I just think it's important that we form communities of people who share truths together and just ignore the haters. They'll just advertise. They do free advertising. Just block and ignore, and let them do free advertising for get more people that can see the truth of Jesus Christ. Okay, continuing on. I'll just read again from the top. But there are some of you that believe not, for Jesus knew from the beginning who they were that believed not, and who should betray him. And he said, Therefore said I unto you, that no man can come unto me, except it were given unto him of my Father. From that time many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. And it's just because they didn't want to be seen as being with that crazy guy that's talking about eating him and drinking his blood. And I think a big part of following Jesus is that you need to understand that the world's going to reject you, and that's okay. And it's biblical. It's part of following Jesus is that the world's going to reject you and mock you. So when that happens, it's just the Bible being fulfilled. It's just more evidence that this is all true. So I see people talking about the truth, and that's great. The biggest instances of truth sharing these days I see on just a very small time scale. I think we're past the truther movement. I think we're at the point where everybody just needs to do their own part to share the truth, and do your best to bring it back to the Bible. That's the whole waking up to flat earth brought me to the Bible. Waking up to the whole gender inversion thing and all the signs and the symbols, it brought me to the Bible. It showed me that these people are really serious about worshiping Satan. So that showed me that the Bible's true. And the most important thing is that Jesus is true. Jesus is the Messiah. It is finished. We're just waiting out. I really feel like we're in the extra, you know how at least in soccer, the game finishes, like the time is up, but there's overtime for all the fouls that were called and timeouts and that stuff. It just feels to me like we're in the overtime, and it's only a matter, nobody knows the day. Don't listen to any channel that spouts out specific dates for things. I don't think that we're supposed to be doing that stuff. I just think that we need to go back to just trying to live a normal life and just realize that, yeah, live a normal life and support freedom of thought. That's it. And support Jesus Christ. Try to make real life connections. Talk about God. Talk about Jesus. Say hi to homeless people. Give them some cash. Quit your job. Just do whatever you can. If you can, quit your job and give away your money. And it's this time, or it's the end. It just feels so over for me. And it's not a bad thing. It's really a special time to be born in. And sometimes I feel bad about myself when I'm slacking and not doing stuff, because yeah, it's like being born in Noah's time. So really every day it's living in a miraculous time. And it's sad that a lot of people are totally asleep and deceived, and we should keep trying to find all the lost sheep. Anyways, everybody should be able to be a beacon of truth today. There's no truthers. Everybody's on the same level. People's moms are able to share important truths today. I think that people just need a little nudging in the right direction and need to be shown that this stuff is biblical. People need to understand that this stuff is biblical so that they learn about Jesus. So you can just read this if you want. I just want to show that there are people that they notice this stuff, but not enough people point out that it's biblical prophecy. That's it for this video. God bless everyone.